Hello and welcome to Shh, Don't Tell My Mom, a web series filmed by islandoftaboo.com. I am Alexander Scatino, the host and the director of the islandoftaboo.com. And now joining us from the Sunshine Coast, Australia, Anita Nevar. And she is a pop erotic artist. Would you like to introduce yourself, Anita, or tell us a bit about yourself?
Yeah, sure. So, hi everyone, I'm Anita. So, I live on the beautiful Sunshine Coast in Queensland, Australia, and I have been a pop erotic artist for at least 20 years. And how I got into this was this creative expression of mine was growing up in a religious environment and then coming out of that, and because of my being oppressed sexually and being very creative, expressing everything through my art. So my theme behind my work is sexual empowerment, and it's to inspire others to just be able to express themselves and be themselves. So I work for private and corporate clients and pretty much guarantee that my pieces will spice up any space and be a bit of a talking point. So it's a bit of fun as well.
Yeah, for sure. It said on your site that you travel quite a bit with different big groups. Could you speak into that and speak into that experience?
Yeah, sure. So I like to do smaller exhibitions where I just do solo shows, but I also do a bigger exhibition. So I might go to a sexpo event, and I was a resident erotic artist at one of those in Australia for 20 years, 2 years, and you get at least sort of 40,000 people through the door. So kink festivals, Mardi Gras. So it's great to reach a wider audience and just see I love the dynamics of it all, and how exciting everything is. So it's good to have my art involved in big things like that, as well as the smaller shows.
Are you seeing your inspiration from the people that you're meeting, or is it an internal inspiration?
It's actually both. So a lot of people that I have painted already are people that I've met along the journey. And, some of them might come up to me and say, hey, can you paint me? Or I've followed their journey maybe on social media and I'm quite inspired by what they do. Something just speaks to me. It could also be that I'm flicking through a magazine and I see somebody in there and I think, that's hot, I want to paint that.
Mm-hmm.
So it comes from a variety of areas. But I do really love that personal connection. So if I do meet somebody, for instance, Bombshell behind me on this side, the yellow one, I actually met her. She was performing at a sexpo event and she came up and asked me to paint her. So, that connection in reality blows my mind. I love it.
Yeah, awesome. And these are hand painted pieces, because when I was looking at them, I'm like, are these digital? Because the backgrounds are so crisp. So maybe a two-part question. It looks like they are digital. And if I'm assuming that, then these canvases must be really large for you to get those shapes to look so regular. Talk about that for a minute. The process of creating.
Yeah, and it's interesting you say that, because a lot of people assume that my work is digital, especially when you see it on the internet, because I'm so OCD about my clean lines. I'm not one of these painters that just slap shit all over the canvas and I can make something out of it. I will actually sit there for hours and everything is a perfect line. And so when people see that in an image, it comes across as if it is digital. And it's not until somebody turns up at a show or they see it in the flesh and they're quite blown away that it is actually hand painted. So I do like to do them big, yes. I've always been like that. Bigger is better. I just have never been into doing your small pieces. It doesn't do it for me. So I like it to really pop and make a massive statement. So
I was really assuming it was digital until I started looking at your Instagram, and there were a few stills of you creating in the middle of creating the piece with the gas mask on.
Yes.
I really enjoyed that. Do you create any time-lapse videos of you creating this stuff?
Would you believe I actually had 15 years worth of amazing footage, and I had a computer crash, my hard drive died, and I lost absolutely everything. I know, rookie mistake, no backup. And so I've actually been fighting my way back to now, you know, with my new pieces that I'm creating, now doing more footage and photos. So sadly on my social media, I'm lacking in that because I just don't have it anymore. And I can't get it back with these pieces that I've already created. So from here on in, there will be a bit more of that, which I think will help people understand that it is actually done all by hand.
Well, yeah, and I think as a consumer, there's a little naivete around how long things take, and
yes,
the price that relative to the price or relative to the skill level, because sometimes things that I see look like they take a really long time, and the artist is cranking these suckers out in like 20 minutes because they have a technique, and sometimes it's taking far longer because of the detail work. How long does I guess you would have to say how large a picture or a painting would be, and then how long that would take you with your current skill level.
Yeah, look, I usually like to start, the smallest piece is around 1 metre by 1 metre. Occasionally I do smaller than that, but very rare. And then I go up to sort of 2 metres, around the 2 metre mark, 2 metres by 2 metres, or 2 metres tall, you know, 1.20 metre wide. And look, that can take me, depending, like the tattooed one behind me took a while, because by the time I drew it out from, you know, the image that I was given, and then got every tattoo in place and then painted it. So every layer or every color has about 6 layers, some of those. So it's like repainting it 6 times to get that depth as well. So look, it can take me a month minimum for 1 metre by 1 metre. It can take me up to 3 months for like your larger pieces.
Amazing.
So sometimes I wish that I was just one of these painters that was slapping stuff all over the place and something appeared, because but whereas when it's so fine, like I'll actually go and correct every millimetre. That's just my OCD. If something's out of whack, I can't leave it. I have to touch it up. But that's the beauty of the final piece, isn't it? It's just that crisp. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm currently trying to get up on the creation and the social, and trying to get that awareness. And the difficulty that I saw when I was creating for myself is, I got to set up a camera over here. I got to set up a camera over there to try to get the angles of me creating this piece so I could have enough sort of micro content to have people be aware of it, because there's so much creation going on right now. Something like this is nice because I'm only creating the social stuff, and I'm talking to you, and it's all set up for me to chop it up and create enough eyes on to start being exposed to people, I guess. And I forget where I was going with that. We were talking about how long things took, and I want to know, do you see yourself where time is meaningless, or you slip into a flow state when you're creating that sort of that makes time slow down or speed up? Do you see yourself being affected by that?
Yeah, I do actually. I go into a bit of a Zen state once I start, and I can be painting, like sometimes I don't even sleep. I'll start in the morning, I'll go right through the night, and then the sun will be coming up the next day. And it feels like I've only been up for a couple of hours, because I'm in the zone. And I love that. I love when I can keep going, things flow. And it's almost like I don't even think about what I'm doing. It just happens. That's magic. So if I experience that, that's utopia. And often, you know, I have to be in the space, like there has to be nothing else going on around me. I find if I have to be conscious of that I'm filming myself for social media or things like that, I can't get into that state because I'm trying to control everything else around me. So when I can just paint, that's magic.
Yeah, lovely. And that state is this spiritual state. And I've read this book called The 7 Laws of Spiritual Success. Have you ever read that book?
No, I haven't actually.
No, that is a book from Deepak Chopra. So he's pretty neat. And one of the 7 laws is to find your dharma state, like the 6th law, I think. Anyways, and it's always an interesting question when I ask an artist, because most artists create in this state of time distortion, this time distortion state. And that is, in his book, is the calling of your purpose in life. What do you think about that? Have you ever experienced, a lot of other artists I'm sure you're exposed to, do any of them express that state?
Yeah, definitely. I experience that state all the time. It's I feel the calling. I mean, even if I would have moments where I go, oh, I'm done. This is too hard. It's hard work being an artist. I always come back to it. The calling is always there. It's something that's in me. And I even remember it as a child. My first memories of being creative and colouring in and everything about me now was always there. So it's just a part of your being. Well, it's part of my being. I definitely feel it.
Yes. And that is this spiritual calling that I also see, this self-expression. Do you have any form of spirituality that's written down, or is it all internal? I know you just mentioned Zen, like getting into that Zen state. Is that something that you look into?
I do read a lot of books on spirituality and psychology and laws of attraction, you name it. I've got a stack of books next to my bed like this, and I'm always finding new things. But look, for me, I think as much as I gain from all of that, it's something that is just internal with me. Like, I don't have anything written down. As much as I'm absorbing things, I just feel that it's there. It's part of me. I can almost feel that vibration in my body. Yeah. And look, it's interesting because I didn't come into that until, as I was saying briefly before, I grew up in quite a religious cult, experience, very oppressed, very repressed. And so I didn't tap into that sort of thing until I had left that environment. So, it was quite interesting to me to come alive and actually feel that part that had been repressed before.
Yes, I know in my own experience that being in an intense religious structure gives me a fortitude and an ability to easily digest hard or difficult topics, abstract. Coming from a space of being in a very religious background allows me to absorb extremely abstract ideas and try new ones on. Like, constantly I put on different spirituality practices, and I can put them on and try them out for a long period of time and release them. And it's easy to absorb and release these things. So with spirituality, we were just talking about spirituality, and you brought in psychology, which in my mind brings up a personal philosophy, and you're creating these philosophical ideas. Do you have any insight into a philosophy that you may be using, or things that you live by, phrases or ideas?
Yeah, look, my philosophy in general is love and acceptance. I think that there's so much hate in the world and so much judgment and bias that my philosophy is just freaking be kind to people and, just accept others' differences, whether that's, especially in the sexuality space. I just, coming again from that repressed environment, not being able to express or be who you are. So just go forth with love. I think that's spiritually, that's where I feel I'm at. It's all about the love and acceptance.
Yeah, love and acceptance. I have quite a few different philosophies that I pull from. And my personal vision for the world is a world where people are authentic and accept other people's authentic selves. This cyclical, when I am authentic, it allows people the permission to be authentic. and that display and that creating that cyclical nature of I'm creating authenticity and someone else seeing that authenticity and giving them the strength to become that authentic self. I feel like in our current situation, sort of past the COVID and into this Black Lives Matters movement, or re into it, and another expression of that comes from this inability to be their authentic selves. Like, you can't express yourself authentically, and that repression causes this distress. What do you think? And you were already talking about authenticity or being yourself.
Yeah, and I totally agree. When you're oppressed, like the stress and anxiety, your mental health suffers. It's not good for the consciousness of the planet if everybody's feeling like that. So I think stepping into that authenticity and especially in inspiring people through, like, I find if I can inspire people through my story and through my creative expression to stand up and be proud, and that's I've won. So for me, it's not really about selling art. It's about what can my art give back to society? What value can it give to somebody to empower them? So, and I speak through the sexual empowerment realm because that was my experience. That my main experience was suffering trauma and judgment from that. And so that automatically, because I'm an artist, I was born an artist, that automatically comes out through my work. So that's the voice I hope to give to people, and open conversations about it. I think everybody deserves a basic human right to just be their authentic self.
Of course, it's funny when you say it. It becomes this. Yeah, of course, people should be able to do that, and then there's that disconnect between what should be happening, or this internal knowledge, or this one knowledge, the love and loving everyone else, has a hard time being expressed, and expressed because you need to put on all these different masks for different people. I myself have a mask, and the show is the mask, and the mask is don't tell my mom, because I don't want my mother to know where I'm coming from in it being exposed to. And even if I didn't do anything in this realm, just the exposure to this realm would freak her out. And it is a taboo subject. It's like everyone's secret is that they watch porn. That's stupid. How can, like, everybody has the same secret? Why is it that way? What do you have to say about this oppressed state of non-expression?
And look, I totally agree with you about my mum as well. I'm actually writing an autobiography about my journey with the hopes of inspiring people. And the first thing I still suffer with putting on the mask as much as I speak about this stuff. We all have those times where we sort of back off. And I remember saying to Mum, you cannot read this. Like, she would not cope with this at all. She'd probably need therapy. So it's sad that we have to do that. And it would be nice in an ideal world to not have to do that with anybody, but that's just not reality. So I forget where we're going with that too.
Oh yeah, I guess we're having a conversation. I was gonna say about, like, reality is what we make it. We're making it right now. We're at the edge. We are at the forefront of the next movement. I think the sex positive movement coming behind the LGBTQ movement. And I hope so. And I don't know, because I was kind of betting on that was the next thing to come in. And it may very well be. What do you think of that? What do you think about movements and we're in the progression of the world as a whole?
Look, I think we're definitely further ahead than what we were. We've still got a long way to go. Where I get frustrated is that obviously there's a lot more people getting on board, and acceptance is a lot more than back in the day, but there's still so much censorship and bias, and I think we're going to have a fight ahead of us. So I think we've just got to keep, with artists, musicians, whoever, what you're doing, if we could just keep raising awareness, opening conversations, and hopefully their voices will be heard, and things will get better as time goes on. But yeah, it's not an easy fight, that's for sure. But we're not giving up.
Yeah, it's the battle. It's the battle for authenticity. I like to think about Pink Floyd, The Wall, sometimes, and seeing the battle for authenticity there, where they're in their classroom and they're individuals, and then they come into the machine, and the machine makes them faceless to become a number. And it's been the artist's struggle to create the knowledge in the conversation to wake people up to an idea. And the idea is that, would you like to be comfortable and faceless, or uncomfortable and express who you are? And that I think is this question that moves throughout art and culture.
Definitely.
Yeah. It sort of just hit me there. It felt really nice to say. I don't know, tooting my own horn over here of whatever. My own personal little weird way of justifying my actions. Like, I have an action, right? My action is raising awareness, and your action is raising awareness. And I got to justify that because the subject matter is taboo. It's hard to talk about. It's difficult to talk about. And when I talk to people about it, it's like you're pulling the cork off of a bottle, and it just starts flowing out. Have you experienced that when you say, like, you meet a new person, they don't meet you in a fetish convention in life, and they go, what do you do? And you're like, I'm an artist. And it's like, can I see your work? And you show them this. Do you ever see them like getting the permission to start speaking into themselves and like who they are?
It's actually very interesting because there's so much difference and you never know what to expect from people, but some will really love it, and they just, you could talk for days on the subject. See others, and it's like a wall goes up, and they can't, they're either repulsed by it, or, they just repressed, and they just can't enter in conversation. But I think it's really interesting when that conversation is open. So if somebody is feeling uncomfortable and yet you can have a conversation about it, you can see their mind ticking over. So it opens doors for them, and it might be just a little seed planted, but that's all you need. So, I mean, the ones that are converted, they're converted. They're with you all the way, they're shouting from the rooftops. It's the others that, want to say something that can't. I mean, even if they're totally opposed to it, I welcome that as well, because it's still giving them something to think about. Who knows? They might somewhere down the track have a change of heart and think back to a conversation or an event. So it's planting seeds. That's what I feel is the best.
Yeah, people are all on their own rung of the ladder. I think about some leadership training stuff that I've done where you're doing a ropes course. You got to trust people. And some people make it halfway up the ladder, and that was like the biggest move that they ever made in their life. How could this have even happened in an afternoon? Amazing, earth shattering. And other people are running up the pole and jumping off of it with like nothing, because they have that trust already. And sometimes that disconnect between the person who runs up the pole and the person who goes up halfway up the ladder, that kind of like wanting to push people up that ladder to get them to where they should be. But and being the stand for the person who is halfway up the ladder and going, hey, this is enough. And I think all of that has a lot to do with the BDSM culture because of this trust in the cultivation of trust inside of these relationships, do you have a current relationship that you're in, or any sort of insight into relationships inside the sex positive or BDSM culture?
I'm currently not in a relationship at the moment by choice. So I prefer to do my own thing and focus on my art. Look, I think relationships are important. That like we all need connection, you know, and especially in sexual relationships. I don't really have any beliefs or, you know, of what it should be. I just think whatever floats your boat. You know, if that aligns with you, go for it. It doesn't matter what anybody thinks. I mean, if you're into, you know, BDSM, if you're into polyamory, like if you're gay, like honestly, just do what feels right for you. So for me, you know, look, growing up as I did, I was always, you know, all of those subjects, they were taboo, you know, they were scary. And I had a lot of biases and judgments myself growing up in religion. And it took me a while to actually see when I had removed myself from that environment, and to actually watch people in their relationships and the differences, and to really see the love and respect that were, especially as you say, in the BDSM. You know, I used to think that were just a bunch of sickos. You know, what the hell's going on here? That was scary stuff. And having been involved, you know, exhibiting at kink festivals and going to their, you know, underground parties, and actually watching the dynamics of this scene, it's actually, yeah, it blows my mind that it's so respectful, and like I say, the trust. And so I think, you know, if that's your thing, go for it. As the respect and trust should be there, whether it's BDSM or whether it's anything else.
Yes, for sure. And the ability that we have to change our minds about things is something I want to always reestablish. And when I'm creating these conversations, is the ability to be authentic. And authentic doesn't mean it will always be the same. Authentic is this journey that you're on of self-discovery, and in the moment of self-discovery, you can make a shift at any moment. If you're into one thing and then you want to be into something else, don't let a fear of losing your community stop you from being authentic, because then you become the thing that you were trying not to become. I see a little bit of that out there.
Yeah, and self-discovery is a beautiful thing. It's you know, you don't know what you don't know. So when you start tapping into things, this is what I love. It's all learning, and life is, you know, lessons and new experiences and new adventures. And I think that's fantastic. There's so much that you gain from that, and so much, like, you grow as a person, and you see the world, and you see people through different eyes. So, man, it's a beautiful thing when you know, I think when you're closed off, when you're repressed, or when you're biased and you have those judgments, you're not living to your full potential. It's actually, I don't think it's good for your health or your mental health.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
Every day that the struggle to want to conform and be safe and secure is there. Like the knowledge that and the bravery to go for authenticity and self-development is something to encourage. And when you see people in that self-discovery, to encourage those people as well, because it is not easy. No matter what the mask they wear, or the day that they have a good day, and you see this guy always having a good day, or this woman always having a good day, to remember that it is a battle. It's like an internal battle to not go back and settle and be comfortable. And that is something that I'd like people to strive for.
Yeah, and actually, saying that, I had an experience recently where I was exhibiting at a Mardi Gras in Sydney, and there was a young boy that came up to my booth, and he just he was a gorgeous young thing, and he had his fishnet tights on, and you know, he came up and was having a chat to me. He was quite shy, and I just looked down and happened to say to him, "I love your tights. Like, you look amazing." And his face just lit up, and he had said to me, he said, you know, he said, "I was so nervous." He said, "I hopped on the bus like this, and I've never done this before. It's the first time, you know, I've never worn these out in public." And he was so inspired just from, yeah. So I didn't know his history, but that encouragement, and that tapped into something for him. So I think if we encourage others and inspire others, the potential is huge to make a difference.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
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 Okay. So we talked a lot through all of the subjects that I wanted to talk about, and I like to save this subject of what was the first moment that you could remember being a sexual being and being aware of your sexuality. And this is something that could be a real life event, or a cartoon that you watched, or a movie that you saw, or a song that you heard, or a piece of art, piece of visual art that you saw that sort of got you to think that there was something more to being a human than toys and candy and stuff like that.
Yeah. Look, I always was in tune with my sexuality from a very young age. I just didn't understand it, or I didn't understand myself, and especially being very repressed, it was blocked. So if anything came up, it was automatically squashed, and there was fear and shame and guilt and all of that went along with it. I think when I really tapped into the power and owned it was from an image I saw. I actually attended an exhibition with a fetish photographer. This is many, many years ago now. And this was before I actually started painting all my sexual work. Before that, I was doing stuff that was non-sexual. And I saw an image of his, and it was a BDSM. It was a couple of girls. And it just spoke to me, and something came alive in me, and I actually started to tap into who I was, and I felt that sexual power. And from there, I actually went on to do a fetish shoot with him, and you know, it started the journey for me. So I always remember that. Always remember meeting him, seeing his imagery, doing that shoot with him, and sending me off on this tangent. It was very powerful.
Beautiful, yeah. The guide, it was like the White Rabbit in Alice in Wonderland. Yeah.
Yes.
All the rabbit, and now you're going down the hole.
I went down the hole, all right.
Slipped and fell down the hole.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, yeah, that is basically the conclusion of the show. We've been talking for about a half an hour, which is, I think, perfect for our viewers. Do you have any final remarks or plugs that you'd like to express in this time before we call a conclusion to the episode?
Look, I just want to encourage everybody to just be themselves, express themselves, and, you know, own that beauty that is your sexuality. It's an amazing thing. And look, it's, you know, it's for everybody, for yourself, for the consciousness of the planet. Just own it, really, and don't be scared of shame, judgment, fear. Just work through it, and there's beauty on the other side. And look, for anybody that's interested in, you know, having some sexy art in their home, definitely give me a call. I do have it, you know, check out my website. I do private commissions, corporate, you name it. And I'd love to be involved in anybody, like within the gay community, kink community, even straight communities, like anything around sexual empowerment. I'd love to be involved and help people. So yeah, check out my website. I'll be writing a book about it soon and doing a documentary. So come on board and join the journey.
Yeah, awesome. Join the journey. That sounds like a great tagline.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm going to take that. My name is Alexander Scatino. I am the director of the Island of Taboo, a new website all around sexuality, sex positive, BDSM, fringe culture. I want to do some stuff with cosplay and J-pop too, because I love that stuff. And I really want to get male makeup. So that's probably another next step for me, is try to find some people who are making some male makeup and start talking to those people. That's it. That's all I have. This was Shh, Don't Tell My Mom. And thank you so much for watching. Have a wonderful day and have fun.